right. Hello, everybody. Like I said, my name is Eric Rosenfeld, and I get to be the program director for Digital Art and Design and Graphic Design, and I'm very happy to be here. We're here for this session for the 24-hour design day job competition. And so I'm just going to very quickly introduce our guests, and then we'll get into the presentation. So just right here on my left is Jayson Whitmore, executive creative and director and founder of Royale, and he's a 2009 Hall of Fame inductee. So welcome, Jayson. We have Kim Alpert, founder director of creative strategy at Make Amazing and 2013 Hall of Fame inductee. We have Nate Howe, creative director and partner at Nathaniel James, and he's a 2014 Hall of Fame inductee. And Tim Naylor down at the end, co-founder, creator, co-founder of Creative Art and Mechanics, and he's also a 2014 Hall of Fame inductee. So thank you so much for coming. Just a quick recap. What we decided to do here is we had a 24-hour design competition. The topic was freedom of speech, which is a topic or a theme relative to all of us. It was about celebrating the founding building block of our society. And so when we got together on Wednesday, we introduced the topic, and it was kind of open to all different types of mediums, all different types of degrees. People were emailing us in their submissions throughout the past day, and it's been a real blast. We've had a group of instructors ingesting all the submissions, and then what we've done is we're going to take a quick look at hopefully all of them that we got in, that we were able to download and grab, and then our sort of committee has narrowed it down to some finalists, and then so we're going to talk a little bit further about the finalists, and then we'll kind of announce our winner after that. Does it sound okay? Yeah. All right, great. So like I said, we when we were reviewing all these topics or all these submissions, one of the common themes came down to both concept and execution. And so the one thing we had people who were saying they were month one. We have a submission from a month one student in CA who rendered out something, and I loved it. It was amazing. So I would just want to say thank you so much for participating. The act of getting yourself out there is sometimes the biggest challenge, and especially in the beginning of the degree, you kind of feel like, oh, I'm not ready. You're ready. You can do this, and regardless of your skill level at that time, it was great to see that all the work involved. All right, so let's just very quickly, we're going to jump through. I have the screen over here. This is no in particular order, just the order that they were listed. I think it would be basically alphabetically. And so our first submission was about Kyle Lindsay. And actually, if we get a woohoo, if you're in the room, Kyle, are you in the room? There we go. Oh, awesome, great. Very nice illustration. I'm just going to kind of run through these, and then we'll focus a little bit more on the finalists, if that's okay. I'm sure we can see here. We have Christina Ortiz. Are you in the room here, Christina? Okay, well, we like you anyways.
Whatever.
Sleeping now.
It's
fun design.
She's still designing.
We have Team DAD who produced a video as well as a PDF. I think I saw them right there. Thanks for coming. Right. And if I'm going to hit play. Let's see. This one will have audio. Should have audio. We'll give it a try.
Free speech often.
Here, I'll reboot.
To suppress free speech is a double wrong. It violates the rights of the hearer as well as those of the speaker. Frederick Douglass. Ignorant free speech often works against the speaker. That is one of several reasons why it must be given rein instead of suppressed. Anna Quinlan. I stand for freedom of expression, doing what you believe in, and going after your dreams. Madonna. Mr. Chairman, the suppression of the people of a society begins in my mind with the censorship of a written or spoken word. John Denver.
We all have a voice.
Fun. Anything that can have John Denver, Madonna, and Frederick Douglass in the same project, is I fully support that. David Whirling made a nice illustration here, which I think that's the whale from Hitchhiker's Guide, if I'm not incorrect. D. Walkins.
That's cool.
Cool.
Nice.
I love work that can excite and disturb me at the same time. Jose de la Vega did a whole branding campaign. This is just a couple snippets from his PDF that he submitted. Entire website where you could take action and share your voice. Joseph Gasco. Thanks, Joseph. Thank you for using that finger. Sorry, apologize. And I apologize for if I get your name wrong here, but is Imagi Mana? Okay, did I say it wrong? Imagi Mana. Okay, great. Jennifer Price, the poster campaign. John Bainter. Juan Marcellari. Carly Estes did a whole website design, functioning website, which is great to see. Joshua Meyer. Mizori Sempia. Apologize if I got that wrong. Great. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I used the name of your file. Okay, I apologize. I'll fix that. Laura Noriega. Omar Arroyo. Juan Neil Perez. Joe Neal, I apologize. See, our students are very quick to correct us. Notice that. It's fine. Nicholas Peralt did a whole campaign as well. Rachel Ferguson, illustration. Andrea Sanchez. Daniela Sora did a whole photo campaign. Timothy Long. And Sierra Woodward did a whole branding campaign as well, including copy and website design. So we're just going to take a moment and sort of talk about, we're going to dive down deep. I apologize for kind of jumping around. I'm going to jump into my desktop so we can pull up the actual submissions. And then we're going to have an opportunity for our panelists to kind of talk and give some suggestion and feedback overall as well. Does that sound all right?
Mm-hmm. Sounds
all right.
good.
You're up here. You can't say no. All right. So when it comes to the finalists, in fact, we'll just do this a little bit. I'll just kind of announce sort of the finalists here. We had Kyle Lindsay. We had DAD 1601. I just picked the first name on the list, Aaron Fisher. Jose de la Vega. And we had the name wrong for this one. What was your name again? Ramon? Ramon. We had Ramon there. My eyes are losing it. Perez, thank you. Daniela and Sierra. So let's just give a quick round of applause for the finalists. Nice job.
Your submission wasn't shown.
Okay. We will track it down. I apologize. We will do that. We were just bringing them in as they got in through the email, so we'll make sure they get posted at the end. I apologize for that, but we had that deadline and we just went with that. So I will make sure it gets seen by everybody. All right. So we'll just kind of go down the list here. And let me just pull this up. Eric's going to fumble for a second. I'm sorry. There it is. All right, so this is Kyle Lindsay's. So we just have any feedback for Kyle?
I like the flow of the cloth that's blocking your mouth. I think that just the kind of flow and profile of the curves that you caught there is really nice. The background's really nice and abstract and allows her to pop as well. It's nice work.
The difference between the background and the foreground, I think the texture there is something that you don't see a lot. I think it made it stand out quite a bit, bringing in those different elements. And the way that it's weighted, both sides of it, it sits really well.
Yeah, the way that she's floating and kind of her hair is free, and but then she's bound at the mouth. There's a nice kind of contrast and tension to it in that way.
I like that her arms are pointing back towards the focal point, her mouth, so it brings your eye back up right to where the mouth is, and that the color difference, so the red band and the combination of the arms kind of keeps your eye going right back to right where the mouth is, which is great.
And the illustrative style is really great. It's really beautiful. I love that it's a cool tone, which is nice. I definitely would bring a little bit more attention to the typography. I think that there's a lot of blue right now that we could possibly make the scarf a different color or the background a different color just to make that pop a little more. But overall, it looks really great.
And, when it comes to sort of execution and concept, we need to have both of those right. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain craft. If you have the great idea, if you don't have the level of craft, it doesn't supplement your concept. And if you don't have a good concept, no matter how much talent you have, you're not going to have something worthwhile creating. So it's always nice to see that balance. All right, so we'll move on. If I don't struggle here, there we go. So this was a brown. Let me move it over. There we go. This was a team challenge that they worked together. So they had their overall voice, use it or lose it. Materials for an entire campaign. Which had that video earlier as well.
What I liked about this one is that I like that you guys had the idea to make it feel like a movement and a campaign. It felt big. Obviously you included the quotes and the celebrities, but it also felt like a campaign that was thought to apply to a large group of people, and it felt like it was really designed to be a movement rather than maybe just a standalone piece of art. It feels like something people would get behind. So I appreciate the ambitious nature of that. I think the tone of the video that we watched, it didn't feel like it, free speech is a charged topic, and it feels like there's some tension in a topic like that. And the tone to the video to me felt like maybe it felt kind of soft and gentle and almost relaxing in a way. So one of the things is, with a campaign like this, a lot of times you want to create urgency for people to get involved and be a part of it. And so I think the logo's nice, the way that you guys did that. But I thought the video could have even been more impactful in terms of making people feel like it's time to act, just based on the nature of free speech. But overall, very impressive. Obviously, 24 hours to do it. I love the ambitious quality of it.
Yeah, I like how well thought out the campaign is, for sure. I think that in this instance, definitely kudos to you guys for putting together an entire presentation deck in such a short amount of time. And in the industry, it's often that happens. You get 24 hours to put together something really amazing. So this is a great practice run for you guys. Overall, the campaign felt very cohesive. I agree that I felt like the video probably could have been left out. But I do like and appreciate the ambition of putting the video together. But it definitely didn't sell the campaign to me of what, like this I see as something else, but then to actually see what you were thinking of it being in motion, I definitely would tweak that a bit more. But overall, I think that you know, I really love this sort of high con illustrative representation of the celebrities. I think that's really nice. I would suggest losing the brick background, or just maybe focusing more on them a little bit. It's a little bit distracting. I think just overall the execution could be tweaked a bit more to make it a little bit more resonant. But overall, you know, I definitely read the logo. I read and I get that this is a campaign. This is something that would catch my eye and want to be curious a little bit more about, especially using celebrity and all of a sudden you're pointing to something super important. So it would make me want to read it, you know, at a bus stop or around town.
I couldn't agree more. I thought, you know, going in and showing all the work in context is
Yeah.
so key.
So key.
When you're putting together a presentation. And I think, you know, if it was just the posters by themselves, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, these are good. And then when I see them out on the street and I see them in class, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I want it to romance me a little more. I think because you and I see pitch decks so
Yeah.
much, that's one of those things, you know, if you haven't seen it, you probably don't know kind of they have that format, but it almost feels like a story and the way you think about video where, you know, maybe there's just one sentence on the first page.
Right.
And it romances you into the idea. You got a little bit of like build up and then this page and then a single graphic and then bam, here's the big idea.
First you want to like light the candle and then put the music on.
Light them over, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know? And
What-
start being like, hey, what's up, baby? You know?
Yeah, I think, you know, thinking about the application, I mean, some of this stuff, I love that you comped it into the real world because it automatically makes people feel like it's a thing and a movement. You know, think about like in a moment like this where you just kind of comp that same comp in here from the poster. You know, a stand-up display like this maybe would be used to really grab somebody's attention. And when they're outside, think about all the things that are competing for your eye. So in different use like this with the brick texture and the type, it all gets very small and it feels busy. Part of one way that you can really make something impactful and feel like a movement is to have a limited palette and big, bold, simple type. So for these different applications, if you were going to continue to refine a campaign like this, I would think, how can we own that movement in a simpler visual statement that people can connect to? If you go back one frame to where it's on the light post, my concern here is, you know, this is the type of thing, you know, think about when you're driving down the roads here. It's crazy. You got to look in front of you every 5 seconds or you're going to crash. I want somebody to just kind of know that and own that even quicker. So think about kind of what the use is here and how it applies. The last thing I'll say, and it's nitpicky, but it's an opinion I have, is if you go back to just the straight posters, I believe like here, you have this brick background that is kind of blended into white, and then you have the characters that are kind of semi-transparent, so they feel like they're on the brick. I don't think these monitors are probably doing it justice. I could tell there's some color variance there, but it feels very washed out. And I know part of that's the monitor, but because they're semi-transparent, some of that's in the design as well. You may even think about crunching the black levels in there or making them a little bit more prominent and the brick either removing it or just kind of keeping little moments of it. If you see on the right, the girl with the green eyes there on the Anna quote, do you see the brick on her neck right underneath her chin? That's kind of a cool moment where it blends into her skin tone. So you could even just kind of leave it just on her and get rid of it on the background and really kind of own the treatment of these characters. But the way that the black is blending into the brick, right now it's not really feeling like it's on the brick. It just feels semi-transparent. So we're giving up contrast of our star there. And it's not really selling that it's on the brick. So I would, you know, in execution, look how to refine that.
Who did this again? You guys, okay, great. The one thing I see conceptually that you were doing is like sort of this Shepherd Ferry, you know, stencil on brick. So I see where you were going with it, and in terms of us critiquing it, perhaps like another way you could look at it, springboarding off of what Nate is saying, is refining the quotes that you find, big, bold type, just something that you read it quickly. So you might want to go back and experiment with that, like something that's bigger. It's about the celebrity, and then and obviously the logo, and just like reworking it so that you really get it what the quote is and what they're saying, because it's a lot to read very quickly. And then if you were going to go Shepherd Fairy, I would definitely figure out like the high contrast in the stylization of the actual celebrity itself looks really good. I'd say that the application to the brick doesn't look realistic, so I'm confused as to like what it is that you're trying to say. So but what could be actually kind of cool with it is that you have this graphic representation of the celebrity. What if you made it big and bold, or it was or even just a color of some sort that's just not, I guess it wouldn't be bold because it's more of a serious note, but like if you just take away the brick background and you keep the Hycon and then you have like a color palette behind them so it pops more, so you simplify, just like pull it back.
I agree, and on the quotes, I think it's an awesome point. I mean, this is where in design it's so important to learn how to continue to dive deeper. Now, this is a 24-hour challenge, so I understand completely, and I appreciate the scope of how you presented this. But on future projects, take a quote like that. Now, is it so important that somebody that sees this movement reads that whole quote, or is it more important that they feel what that quote is kind of speaking to? And this is where in design the challenge is, how do you dive deeper than the low-hanging fruit? And so could we take key moments of how that quote makes you feel, or even key words? If you look in there, there's often, works, that is, one, of. There's all these words that don't really matter, but they're needed to make the sentence. But look at the key words in there about like, it must be given rein and not suppressed, and ignorant free speech. There's some real juicy content in there. And one thing in the video that you could do is really own some of those moments and get some of those kind of sensationalistic words out there and make that prominent. This whole treatment and style could be applied to just big words as well. So there's ways to continue to kind of take your leaping point, your inspiration, these quotes and these people, and say, what does that really mean to me, and how can I abstract that even further and simplify that even further? But again, I think it's very impressive what you guys have put together here in that time.
Excellent, thank you. We're going to keep moving. Let me jump around. This is Jose's. I'm going to express your right, so I'll click through. Online platform where users can submit their thoughts, questions, and experiences anonymously or not to express frustrations or violations of their freedom of speech. So that includes the branding, a logo, iconography, and here's the website. You have a forum.
I like the comprehensive nature of this. I like that you thought through the icons and what they would mean and represent, and that you tied it into that. My question would be if the tone of the style of illustration does the subject of free speech justice in terms of the gravity of it. Now, that's open to interpretation from people. I think by going with these kind of sketch outline, it feels a little bit inherently younger and maybe even a little bit more innocent, just because of the colors and the detail level of the illustration. So that's something that I really want to say. If you're gonna go with a theme like that, really own that and understand why you're doing that. If somebody's on here typing something very serious with free speech, it feels like it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to that. So that would be my thought with this. It's just the overall tone feels very lighthearted and fun almost, yet my interpretation of the topic is it feels like it's a more charged issue. But I do like the thinking that ties into the icons, and I like that you've really kind of propagated that design through a lot of this website and thought about how somebody would interact with it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think the big thing with that is the why.
Right.
And I love this piece. I think you came up with so much, and you're like 2 slides away from like putting this in front of somebody who's like going to write you a check to go build something. Like, this is really a cohesive deck, which is incredible to see in this competition. Mm-hmm.
in that time frame too.
Yeah. Like in a 24-hour turnaround with not a brief at all, you've created something that like clearly, it shows a really good comprehension to like how that process works for a student to have is really awesome. There's that one step between like the brand, like you've got your theme, your brand, your final product, and then there's that why that kind of sits in the middle. Who's it for? Who's our audience? Where, and it's just kind of that hero statement that says, tell me that this is a website where I'm uploading a photo, using a hashtag to get someone to respond to it, to build a community with other people, blah, 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 like whatever it is that it's doing. So I get it right away. And then when I see the comp of the site, I'm like, oh yeah, and then that's what the forum's for, and here's the button to submit. And I already know what I'm about to look at. And I think that would answer those questions of like, oh, well, it's for girls between 11 and 14, or
Right.
you know what I mean? Like it's like, so like all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, perfect colors, perfect. It just makes, it makes it fit and make it more sense. Not that this is necessarily for girls 11 to 14.
Yeah. No, I think knowing the why and that's one of the things that not necessarily for this design challenge, because this is 24 hours to kind of rock some thoughts about how to do this, but when you present later to people, really kind of whether in the deck itself or when you're on the call with them, learning how to articulate why you've done what you've done and learning how to do that to yourself as you're doing it is so critical. So you really can own it and speak about it. And if somebody asks you tough questions in a room when you're pitching it, you have a reason to back it up that makes them like it more, that makes them connect with it more. So that's so important as you're presenting your work to people.
Yeah, that's always hard because like you can't present it to us, so it's just like, hey, what's up? But the one thing, I'll just keep this short. Two things: conceptually awesome, love, express, communicate, and create. That's a really great three letters or three words to communicate how to take action, which is something I really like. And again, I'll agree with Kim and with Nate that it feels like the execution just needs to be rethought. I think that if you just take exactly what you've done but reskin it but just slightly differently, you'd have a really, really great campaign because everything is there and the presentation was really well done, for 24 hours. So that would.
We're being really critical.
We're being critical.
I want to put that out there too. Yeah. Even with like professional decks, like you're still getting into questions where it's like, oh, we have to reorder things. Like it's not like
well, this is kind of
to make.
It's really interesting because this is what we go through. Like as a design studio, usually we'll show 3 concepts, and as we're going through with these short deadlines, it can get kind of crazy. And then usually, and what you'll notice is that the studio that goes above and beyond, so this is how competitive it gets, is that, we put together a deck, we put together 3 concepts, we put together strategy and written and all kinds of really cool stuff. And then if we really want to go above and beyond, we put together a motion test, and if it makes sense, or we reference something, or, to be able to sell our idea up the chain. So, but the fact that you had 24 hours and you are where you are in school, and then you put this together with a great concept is awesome. So
it's very impressive.
If you just want to go back through and just, reskin it a little bit and rethink it of the why, which I love that, then you're going to have something really great for your portfolio.
That's a great point. I mean, that you guys are both making. I mean, the heart of the concept and the idea is very strong, and you've really thought through how somebody would interact with this. And a great design exercise for yourself would be like, what if I had to do this same website for that demographic that Kim was speaking about? What if I had to do it for veterans that were coming back that wanted to speak? What if I had to do it for a different demographic group altogether? And what would need to change? You have the core kind of heart of the idea, and it's great to see that that idea could stay intact, but you could brand it to so many different groups of people. And so that's the power of design, is that you could really kind of customize it to communicate exactly to who you need to speak to.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I always do with decks too. I'm sorry.
No, go.
Are you sure?
I'll go next.
Is think about what your end product is, like what you're delivering, and deliver the diagram that says like, here's one with rollover, like that gets really into the weeds, but explain the details. When you look at decks for like awesome ideas, they just explain the details. They show you some concept work. Here it is in context. Here's this mock-up in an iPad. And that's the one thing that I think is different between like school where you're like, you have to get into that, like, I spaced out the type. Here's the spaced out type piece. Here is the header and footer. And this is, and then I think when you take a step back and you're in the professional world, it's more about kind of the use cases. Who's it for? What is it? Who's it for? Why they care? How it'll grow? You know, so kind of take that step back. And then this is a great example of like, not just the idea, but what you're delivering. You know, this is like the phase 2 studio piece. You're like, here's all the different elements of the logo and the elements of the website, and it gets into that level.
I'm really blown away by this. I just wanted to point out something that I thought was, I mean, the scope of freedom of speech is so huge. How do you boil that down into something that's so simplistic that every human walking the planet can really relate to? So I just wanted to point out something real quick that I absolutely loved. I love the simplicity of the icons and then the connection of what to do, that they were all action oriented.
Yeah.
You might want to change the create and on that particular one to change, because the arrow, the check marks is more like voting. But for me, I just loved how really just super clear the icons connected with exactly the expression of the freedom of speech at the different stages.
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed it. It just made sense to me immediately, which was great.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Cool.
Excellent. Great work. All right, let me just load up the next one.
The eyes on this are so striking. I think that's what jumped out at me at first more than anything. The eyes really pull you in, and the expression. You've really captured something very unique here. So it's very nice.
It's very emotional.
At my company right now, we're building a dead celebrity that millions of people know. And one of the most difficult things to get in computer graphics is the meniscus. Anyone know what the meniscus is? It's the little piece of water that is the separation between your eyelid and the sclera part of your eyeball. If you don't get the meniscus right, you don't get human emotion, and the likeness goes away and they look like a zombie. And within about 2 seconds of viewing this, my eye went right to the meniscus. Yeah. And the emotion of this whole piece, in my review of this, is exactly how the meniscus, that single piece of anatomy, carried the emotional state of this. And I just thought that was awesome. From someone who has to like do it digitally and go, oh my gosh, how are we going to make that emotion come out? For someone to do it within 24 hours for, in this beautiful drawing, I'm completely jealous. Well done.
Yeah.
See, with something like this, I completely agree. If you block the eyes out, I lose a lot of, you lose a lot of the impact of it. Now, I think where this could continue to grow with more time is, okay, we have a great illustration here. We have eyes that really capture us. But how do you own that into something that turns into a campaign? Or does this stand, like, let's say maybe this just stands alone as one piece of art, but if you wanted to turn this into a campaign, how could that be done? And so what could be unifying elements? We have the mouth that is bound, and we have the eyes that have this expression. And then so you could start to look at, like, what are the modular elements that are going on here that we could shoot different people or draw different people and apply that to them. I also think with something like this, you could do something where maybe the eyes are the only part that are illustrated this much, and everything down by the mouth starts to kind of disappear and the line work starts to drop off. It's another way to kind of just own something where it's how do you take a beautiful illustration and expand it out so it can be turned into a design campaign that encompasses a lot of different things. Nice. So.
I'm going to go the non-brand route, because that was like, okay, we have covered all of that. Yes, covered all of the things. Wheat paste it, put it up, put it under the bridge. Yeah. If you're showing art to somebody, a lot of times the first thing they're going to want to know, what's your medium, what's your material. Showing this in the spiral bound, crop it. That's one of the great things that you can get about your fine artwork at Full Sail. Learn how to crop it like it's hot. And put that footer on there. I know. I'm that kind of dork. Put your name, your medium, what was it made with? Yeah. Give us the year.
Sorry.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And that's always when you send out work and you're like sending something to a gallery or sharing it with somebody, when you burn your info in the bottom like that, it's there. And if it gets shared or reposted, you've done your due diligence to own it. It's not just your signature, it's your calling card. So when you share work, put it that way. This is beautiful. And the first thing I did was kind of look down, because I wanted to be like, okay, well, is the white made of this? Like, is it just granite? Like, is it ink? Is it ink and digital? Like, and then when I saw the spiral, so, give us some of that, because it's, anybody who works in fine art or in that medium is going to want to know.
Well, and it shows that everything matters. Like, when you're presenting to people, everything matters, even things that you don't care about. Like, here, obviously, your love is poured into the illustration and the drawing. But then you also have to think about the photography that you're going to present it with. So when you keep that spiral in there, it kind of feels like, hey, here's a snapshot of some work in progress I'm doing. Now, if you crop that out, or if you put it on a nice background, you had somebody holding it, or different ways that you could photograph this, all that matters in terms of the emotional impact that somebody's seeing. A lot of times when we present to people, like Kim was speaking about how you want to, get into the weeds a little bit, it depends on who you're presenting to, because sometimes we'll be presenting to, some executive of a television network that doesn't really necessarily know or care any of the technical things that's going on. All he's going to think about is, what is the emotional impact that this has on me? And they may judge the fact that they see the spirals even more than the artwork. Sometimes the thing that matters the most to you, they don't even notice or care about, and they lock onto something else. So when you're pitching, everything matters, because you never know kind of what's going to land or stick with somebody, but you can always go back to, like, how does it make somebody feel? Because that's typically how most people interact and engage you with a pitch.
And then just my final comment, based kind of jumping off, agree with everybody up here. And maybe another take on this, which could be kind of interesting, is if it was, instead of over white, if it was over black, and she was kind of coming out of the black into the light. And I could see this being presented on like a vertical poster format that's sort of like, in the cities where you have like multiple versions of them pasted up on a board on a street. Yeah. I could definitely see that. And then, I see this all the time in Los Angeles. It's pretty cool. There's this thing in Los Angeles that's going around. It's kind of cool. It's like teddy bears being hung by nooses. I don't know. It's like, but they're up on the, like, the power lines, for a while with shoes. And then now it's like these teddy bears that are like hanging there. And I'm thinking, like, what is the artist trying to tell me? It's like, is it the death of youth? Like, is it tied to a movement? And then you'll see stuff like this posted up, everywhere. And you're like, what's that? And it becomes almost like a cultural phenomenon for a little bit. You'll drive around and everybody sees it. So like that would be kind of cool if that led into a campaign that was like, oh, okay, this is about freedom of speech, which could be kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. We lost speech a little bit.
Yeah, the thing that it really shows you is a lot of times with artwork like this and one-offs, you want like one arresting moment. You want one thing that gets you and captivates you and just like holds you and grips you in. And I think it sounds like to all of us, that's the eyes here. Yeah. And I think if you happen to have missed the mark on those eyes, which I don't think you did, we wouldn't even have been talking about this for so long. It's the eyes that really have got us all captivated.
Yeah, the eyes bring it into freedom of speech, because otherwise, one of the first things I thought of had we not seen it in the context of all of these pieces and not known the topic, I think it would be a little bit confusing, because she's kind of disembodied, but we can see her clavicle. So there is this like kind of sexual nature to it. And without knowing that she's bound in the context of this topic and seeing the other ones, because it's such a theme that has come through, there is, and her eyes give that. At least to me, her eyes give that like freedom of speech kind of the feeling of it not being sexualized. So if there's a way to, if that's what the theme is and you're entering the piece, to ensure that it's within that realm.
But you're right. I think like when I look at that, the only reason I look at the eyes and I'm like, oh, she has something to say, but she can't. The only reason I would think that is because we've been told this is all about freedom of speech. But if you had to pitch this to somebody else and you weren't in the room to say it, you may not connect this with freedom of speech. So thinking how to really stay true to that concept and own it and tie it into it. If it's fine art, it can be abstract. But if it's becoming a branded campaign, it's something that needs to be there.
Great. Thank you. On?
I know. I feel like you're waiting to get in the rave.
Oh, sorry, 1 second. So this one was freedom of tweet, silence the haters.
Yeah. I love this. The strongest thing to me in this is just the concept of how the microphone turns into the bird cage. I mean, to me, that's like the home run. A lot of times when you hit that home run, let people just appreciate that. This is my opinion on this. You hit a home run with the concept. You have the bird in the cage and the microphone. It's saying it all right there. I don't even need the clouds. I don't even need the text boxes. I don't even need the website. You could just own that mark big and just like make that prominent in the hero. I think the clouds take away from it a little bit. I think you have a striking idea of that bird being stuck in that microphone. I'd like to see that like bigger and more just kind of prominent. That's my personal take on it. But I think the home run that you came up with here, which is hard to do in 24 hours, is how to, in a clever way, tie visual themes together. You did it in a way that's interesting, that's true to the microphone and true to the concept. So that's my favorite part about this. I think the clouds and colors take it away from that. You know, they soften it and they make it feel younger. And I want to feel the tension of that bird in there. You know, and Silence the Haters is like a powerful comment, but then the rest of it feels like soft and, you know, cartoon clouds. So to me, it's conflicted there. But you really have found something nice in that moment in the microphone.
I agree. I think simplifying would be good. It would be helpful for this. It's almost like you could get away with centering the mic upside down with the bird in the cage and just have that be front and center. Lose the clouds, lose everything else around it, fade it off to like a dark gray background, and then put Silence the Haters and then tweetforfreedom.com. I mean, that's all you really need.
Yeah, agree. I mean, even imagine, I'm not saying this is the answer. There is no the answer with design and art, but another way to think about this, imagine, I love what you're saying, the microphone's centered and a little larger. I agree, like 100%. And imagine if you did that like just on a black background and Silence the Haters was huge typography behind that mic, you know, and something like that. Now you've gone and you've taken this concept and it went from a poster that at a quick glance, I don't get the tension of it. I don't get the Silence the Haters. I don't get that. I don't feel that mood from the look of it. But if you made it more, if you put more tension into it and it was centered and big and bold and branded, things like that, I think that's where somebody's driving down the street or they see your poster on the wall and they're like, grabs them and it's arresting and it hits them. So like simplifying the design and just really injecting some of that tension into it, I think would make this, it would make it a home run.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of times when you have brands like the Twitter logo and stuff, that blue, you know, you're not allowed to use that blue for other elements because that's what makes it pop. So thinking about things like that, so you can kind of really create a difference between your foreground and your background. I have a funny story. Like a really long time ago, I had a friend come out. It's a very quick story, Eric. That's good. And we were like gonna go out dancing or something like that, and he was wearing no less than 6 different colors of blue. And it was like blue shirt, blue sweater, blue jacket, blue pants, blue socks, blue shoes, like all blues. Only blues, all blues. And I remember being like, dude, what's with this outfit? And he's like, what? And I was like, you do not match. And he goes, of course I do. It's all blue. And I thought like it was the most brilliant, ridiculous thing I'd heard. I was like probably a teenager, but it really stuck with me because it was such a silly outfit. So it's something I think about when I see a lot of the same colors still, or when I'm dressing myself because I'm not really a great dresser. So, you know, think about that. Always think about your, you know, your first level of color, your second, your tertiary. Build it out so it has that hierarchy, and let that do the work for you to put elements in to bring things up.
Mm-hmm.
Our dressing competition will be next month.
Yeah.
Oh my God, please no.
Outfits. Excellent. I'll move on. Just keep us going. This next submission was a four photographs. So let me just bring them up really quick. Oops, wrong. Make sure I get on the right screen. Sorry, I do that every time.
I love this one. Mm-hmm. The concept is so awesome, and it's so simple, and really says it all with the photography. This is a great example of what to do in 24 hours that's simplified and tells you It's exactly what needs to happen. It's that and my only comment about it would be to revisit the choice of font and basically your logo, and I would just spend a little bit more time on that because you have such powerful images. I would love to see a couple different versions, or just something that's a little less, I don't know, just to revisit the actual typography itself. But the other stuff, this is awesome. It's really, really good.
The photography has a real,
So good.
The whole feeling of it feels very international to me. It reminds me of campaigns I've seen in Italy and in Brazil. If you step through, I agree completely. I think you've got a great unified theme and quality of backplate and photography and style and expression and mood and youthfulness, and it feels like it's screaming to be a big campaign. I could see it on the side of a bus. I could see it, all over. The typography, like on this one, for me, I'm not feeling the typography over her mouth right now. I think the colors and the flow of it feel like a real kind of left turn from what the rest of the campaign is telling me.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with everything that Jayson is saying. I think that, it's a quick turnaround. You guys did a lot of great work. This with the right font, the right messaging, and the right logo.
Sold.
And then it's done.
Yeah.
I would almost even I know this is, well, actually you're kind of doing it here with the tape. The tape is awesome. But even with the typography over the mouth, it's either you revisit the font, or you actually put a black bar over the mouth. I know it's kind of cliche. It's been done a lot, but if done in the right way, it could definitely work. Yeah. But
and in this one, I could even see the argument to say not even having the tape, or have her pull that off her mouth. If you imagine it without that too, it's still a very arresting image, and it's the most literal, I guess. The other one is if he's cutting that tie, it feels more artistic, and this one, the only thing I'll say is that it feels very literal on the nose, where even without that, it still kind of feels like it has that tension, and her hand is going up to her mouth, so it may not even be necessary. But overall, I really like it. I think the graphics, if they were kind of refined and you really found a strong visual theme there and how to own it, I do appreciate the fact that you're working with a very limited palette with just that punch of yellow, because I think that's how you create that feeling that it's simple, bold, branded, and a movement.
Yeah, I love it. It's so great. There are so many things where you're like, you get it. You got enough spacing around your logo. You understand how to lay out a mark and text and not have them fight. We've got our tagline in there. We've got a series of different images, so we see how it's used across multiple pieces of creative. There are so many things where you're just yes, you get this, you get this. This is something, polish it. Put it in your portfolio, take more than 24 hours and really hone in on what that font is, treat those letters. It's a wonderful piece.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's something that should absolutely live outside the competition and keep building off of it.
Nitpicking, fight against the silence, I would definitely not have, I would bottom justify the fight against the silence with muted, so it's not just kind of floating in the middle. So it just the typography just feels clumsy. So it would just pull it together, try to get the, Kim was saying, the spacing is pretty good in terms of you can read everything. That's nice, but in terms of how you put it together, it'd be nice if it was unified. What if it was all in a box, or what if it was
lock it all up?
Yeah, you lock it together. I almost feel like you could even get away with just a URL, if just the URL, and then that's it.
Because that would be
keep
classy and simple.
Just take it all away, and just keep it really mysterious. And then if you comped this into a bus stop or on a on a wall altogether, that would catch my eye and be oh, okay, I need to go check that out. That's what is this saying? This is kind of mysterious.
I completely agree. I mean, for your portfolio, you should definitely comp this into a bus shelter and a bench, a side of thing, and do a good job of it. And don't go get shots of Orlando. Go on the internet and get shots of New York City, and go get shots of Milan, and go get shots of Rio de Janeiro, and comp it in there, and put that on your website, because when you show it to a job, a potential somebody that's going to hire you, make it feel like it's this big international campaign. To me, it already has the feeling and mood of something like that. Comp it into a New York City billboard or a bus and put it on your site, and I think it's a home run.
Yeah, and you've heard international so many other from so many other folks. show it in multiple languages. You know, advertisers want to see that. Like, that's such a huge, awesome thing in our portfolio pieces. And, you know, working with multicultural folks, like, it changes everything. And if a student can show us that, they start moving up that chain of like, oh my God, they get it. Great. Like, get them in here. We're going to talk about it. I love in context. Go big. Put it in Times Square. Don't stop. Like, just put it in all kinds of places.
Go big or go home.
Go bigger. Don't go home. We're not done.
No, okay.
It brings a lot of questions. I think if I was being hypercritical and this was in your portfolio, I'd want that extra piece of like, what is unmuted? So like, there's a check? So is that for like getting people to vote for something? Are we going to recall the members of the UN and people can vote on them globally? Like, what is that? Like, that would be amazing.
Yeah, cool.
You know, and then they have all these dark circles. So it's like, well, what is that? Is that starvation? Is that, you know, brutality? Give me a little bit of that context. Set me up with just some like white text on black, and then bring me into creative, and you get that wow moment. So I'm already thinking about what it is, and then the creative hits really hard.
The last thing I'll say about this is when you go to put it in your portfolio, if you start exploring other logos, you could take a piece that has nice art direction and obviously powerful photography that impressed people here, you know, and you could really kill it off or make it feel unsophisticated. So one potential thing to look at, what Jayson was saying that I liked about simplifying it and maybe just having a website down there, is it takes less of the focus of your work. It takes it away from your logo design there and allows it to feel like it's the big movement and campaign. So you may not even need it for your portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to play train conductor, and I'm going to move us along really quick because we just have 2 more to show. And in fact, Jayson pointed out that there was one that we also wanted to show in here, and this was D. Watkins.
Yeah, I really liked this one a lot. I just thought it was such a cool illustration.
Yeah, it's cool.
And should have been a part of the finalists, so last minute finalist selection. But yeah, I came across this image and I was just like, wow, that's really creepy and weird and awesome, all wrapped up into one. And it's a really beautiful illustration. So it's pretty badass.
I mean, I feel like I'm looking at like a new album artwork or a poster for, you know, this could be applied to so many different things aside from just fine art and the commercial side of things. So you've really been able to kind of hit a tone that is hard to hit. It's very interesting.
The only thing I would suggest is turn the mouth in the jar upside down so it's not smiling. You know, I mean, I get it, but it's more like it. You know, to me, it's like it's such a. The top half to me communicates sad, and then the bottom half is like, is it smiling or you know? Sinking. Okay. Yeah. I mean, even if you just took this and rotated it upside down, it'd be.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's awesome. It's really cool.
Nice.
That would definitely catch my eye for sure. In Los Angeles, is like a poster.
Yeah, it feels like one already. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. And I would love to see that also comped in an urban setting. I think that would be really
You did
cool.
a great job on the eyes because you hit the right level of detail, and the fact that you thinned out the stroke weight of your line there, because like I love that the hair feels like it's kind of just irreverent and it's got some kind of shakiness to it and it's a little thicker. But if the eyes were that same thickness, it wouldn't feel as sophisticated. The fact that you went smaller with the detail around the eye, that like makes it feel more sophisticated. So you have a great balance here of like attention, irreverent, kind of loose and hand done, and then some sophisticated elements that make it all work together. So I think that's something that's not easy to do. I think, you know, on the hands, I don't know if you need as many detail lines inside of the hands to define the contours, specifically on the left one there. I think there's a lot of kind of marks in there that maybe aren't necessary. You could simplify and clean up a little bit, but that's super nitpicky. Overall, it's awesome.
It's like, intense little kid hands. Little kid hands are always like super soft and like don't have the wrinkles and stuff. This piece is so great. So great.
Love it.
Like the fact that this was made in 24 hours is ridiculous. You have now 10 more days to make 10 more of them. So
And then submit them to Kim.
Well, no, and then you have a body of work, and then you have a show.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, this is
Come up
this
with
is
a
a piece
logo,
that's
though.
ready.
Come up with a
No,
logo
see,
that identify- or no?
I'm off that. I'm like,
Fine
no,
art.
like
You're
this
on
is a
fine
fine
art.
art piece. Like this
Okay,
is a piece you
whatever.
show it. Like I don't want to see this in context. I don't want to see this as a
beautiful.
billboard or on a bus stop. Like
Yeah.
this is illustration. This is art.
Yeah, it's good.
You know, and you know, even if you want to go into advertising, separate the two. If you're interested in fine art and showing your work, show it. First of all, show it. If you're not going out and like trying to show your work, clearly turning this around in 24 hours, you're ready, go show it. Like wherever you like to eat lunch, they have walls there. Be like, hey, I want to show my work here. Put it up on the wall. Maybe you'll sell something. Maybe you'll learn how people react to it. And the way people are going to react to your work is going to make your work better, make your work more interesting, and make it way easier for you to show your work somewhere where the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
So-
If you did make more of them, here's a fine balance. So I'm not saying put a logo on it and make it commercial, right? But what if you had more of them and you comped it on one of those big post-up walls in New York or LA? So you had like, this one's got that pink background, do another one that's got a different color with a little boy, you know, do something else, and just show it in context on a cool-looking street comped all together. And then it feels like it'll still, fine art people will still appreciate it, but commercial people that look at it will think, oh, this could be part of a campaign.
It's cool.
Yeah, make it grow, because you could easily, as a fine artist, one of the greatest ways to actually get paid is to do branded content. And to be able to have a series where you can show it, and maybe there's, a PSA or like a nonprofit that wants to buy it and use it for something, lots of different occasions. Eric is making it smaller to show me. Okay.
Getting to the next one because we're going to run out of time. So I'm just, you keep
We have
talking.
4 minutes.
The only, I want to give like a little critique. The first thing where I was like, oh, if it only, only if it only, if you got rid of that tear, that word comes forward. Her eyes show that she's crying. And I think that's one of the things when we're students, we want to say everything like to the infinitum of definition because we want to get it across. And the subtlety that's there of seeing crying eyes with no tear, I get it. I'm filling in the tears in my mind, and I'm reading the word grounded, and I'm connecting those two things together. So, that's the negative space, is the psychology, and it's so hard to do. But start playing with that a little bit more and ask people like, does she look sad? Does she look like she's crying? Does it look, are you getting this? Is this person happy enough? And you'll find that balance.
All right.
Nice work.
And then last but not least is Sierra's, and she did a campaign. I'm just going to click through, speak freely.
Yeah.
Who is
This was a home run. I like this a lot because
Dang.
you really propagated it through a lot of elements, and to me it feels like a big movement, and you really kind of kept the consistency to the branding. It's a lot of work in a short period of time, and it looks like you didn't, like here, right here, the way you comped this in on the magazine, it's like you didn't just slap it in there and just like try and get another element. You added that sheen back in over it, and the way that you kind of tied it all together, it feels like that looks like an absolute campaign almost. Like, I mean, you've done a great job here of showing us something that feels like a movement, and you've kept the branding consistent through everything. I think the monitors we're looking at are taking the color, and it's making it maybe more pink than it actually was. I don't know if that's right, but overall, I really like it. I like that you've shown me this brand in very simple forms, and then you've shown it with more content and copy around it. So you've thought about like how to still express the brand in a simple, easy, way that people can digest, and they've shown how it has legs and can communicate information. So I think it's a home run.
It's really, really good. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Basically, I mean, everything's thought through. Love the logo, love the mark. I love, one of the interesting things about campaigns is that, if I want to read more about it, I can. So I like that you could read more about it. But if I'm at a bus stop and I'm ADD, which I am, then I can just get that. But if I saw this all around town, eventually I'd be like, okay, what is this? And then I would want to read about it. I'd want to know more.
See, the way that you have the speak freely so big there, that was something that I think we can learn about when we were talking about the other quotes. Here there's a way to really quickly digest the heart of the message, and it feels big and bold and branded. And if I have 1,000 things competing for my attention, if I'm standing at a bus stop in New York City and there's billboards and there's ads driving by, my phone's buzzing, and I'm flipping through a magazine and I see that page, it does grab you a little bit more in a big, branded, bold way. And maybe you don't latch on the first time, but you see that around town, like he's saying, and it feels so cohesive. Eventually, you're going to grab some people with it. So that's what I like about it. I also think it's impressive how you took the theme and owned it and stayed true to it and propagated it through so many elements. I like that you had the mouse over and you showed the money on it, where you could buy things because you're showing people how it could, sell product. So overall, I thought it was very thoughtful.
Are you tired? Did you sleep? You did. Okay. All right. Okay. I like this.
I love the buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, the buttons are awesome.
Well, that's all that we're going to be showing for today. If there's anybody who didn't get presented, I'm going to be making sure these are posted on Connect, and I will meet with me right outside right afterwards. I will get your information, and I'll make sure we track down where those ended up, and we make sure everybody gets to see them as well, because I want to make sure everybody's work gets represented. But I'm kind of proud to announce that we're going to. I'm just going to jump over here to make sure I get the full name right. Is our first 24-hour design competition winner for 2015, right? 2015 is Sierra Woodard. So we want to congratulations. Thanks so much. And like I said, there was no matter where you are in your programs, like I said, getting your stuff out there and committing yourself to finishing a project in the short amount of time period. If you repeat this on a semi-monthly basis, you are just going to become amazing. Is there any last words, thoughts that our panelists would like to share?
Thank you guys for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
I mean, thanks for getting involved. And hopefully we'll get a link for the people whose work wasn't included in there. Love to check it out and just kind of see that. I know you guys are up and jamming on it. Sometimes in the real world, things like that happen too. We had a pitch we were on, and one time the client didn't get the right attachment, and they had forwarded the wrong thing on their end, and stuff like that happens. Roll with the punches, just kind of get it back in front of people and just flow with it. Just kind of keep putting your best foot forward. But I appreciate all the effort. So it was fun for us to be up here.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, rock. I loved watching you guys work through that stuff. That was awesome.